Becca is going to introduce Claire to begin our cooking lesson. Becca?
All right. So I am so excited to introduce Claire, owner and chef of Claire's Cornucopia. I've had the opportunity to visit Claire a few times in her home, and every single time I leave with new tips on what to cook and how to cook. And I know that there's folks who are going to be cooking along with Claire at home. There are other good people who are going to be watching Claire cook. And you are going to learn a lot of things over the next hour and a half. This is also, as Josiah said, this is being recorded. So if you want to go back and watch it again, we'll make that opportunity available. But let's start cooking. Thank you, Claire.
You're welcome, Becca. It's been a pleasure. Thanks so much. Welcome to my kitchen. So we have tonight, we're making, well, you've seen the menu. We're going to have a bruschetta of beets and goat cheese and topped with truffle oil, which is really lovely. And then we're also going to have stuffed artichokes, because if you've never stuffed an artichoke, it's so helpful to see how to stuff it. And then we're also making chocolate chip and almond stuffed dates. Yes, which are very, very nice. And they're healthy too. Okay, so let's get started. Just because of the way the time goes, it's best to start on the figs, because the figs have to macerate in the orange juice for an hour. So what you do is you take your figs. Now you could use dried figs, you can use dried dates, dried apricots are lovely too, and they're all rich in fiber, and they have just such a natural sugar content that if you want a little sweet at nighttime and you don't want to have a whole hunk of cake or a pint of ice cream, you could definitely have some figs. They're loaded with iron and fiber and just yummy. Or you could do dates, of course, or other dried fruits. So what you want to do is you want to cut about 2/3 of the way through and give it a little squeeze. And then normally we put chocolate chips in, but I had dark chocolate kisses and I just thought, why not? It's a party. So we're going to put one kiss in the middle, and then we're going to put almond. And the almond is also, another healthy one, and it looks pretty. And it's just a wonderful snack. My mom always made these, and you can make them as well. And they're good hot or cold, so you can make them and keep them in the house. So we're just going to go ahead and what am I doing? I'm so sorry. Oops. Okay, that's what it's going to look like later. We're just getting them ready to macerate them. And we're going to just cut a slit like 2/3 through and get them ready, because we're going to plump them up a little bit with the orange juice. You can use freshly squeezed orange juice, or you can use store-bought orange juice. Of course, it's lovely freshly squeezed with the pulp. And so we're just cutting through. Don't cut all the way through or you'll lose your chocolate into the pan when you go to bake them later on. So what we're doing is we're just getting them cut with a sharp paring knife and putting them in a bowl. Give it a little squeeze just to open it up. And that's it. Okay. And then what we're going to do is just cover it with orange juice and just let it macerate. Let's put them in there and get them all into the bath of orange juice and let them just soften a little bit. And we're just going to go ahead and leave those for an hour. So Google's going to help me with that. Hey, Google. Hey, Google. Oh, no. Is she not cooperating?
The mic is muted.
Well. Hey, Google.
The mic's back on.
Thank you. Hey, Google. Please set the timer for 1 hour.
Sure, 1 hour.
Excellent.
Starting now.
Okay, I don't know what I would do without that Google. Okay, so they're there and they're ready. So now we are going to go on to, we're going to start with the beets, because beets are fussy. Depending on the size, they could take, sometimes I swear, it's in the restaurant, someone will say, when is a beet going to be ready? When are beets going to be ready? And I'll say, sometime today, because you really don't know, because depending on what size you have. So these are red beets, but you can buy candy cane beets, which are adorable. They're kind of a red stripe. You can get the golden beets, which are also lovely. The red beets have kind of a really nice, deeper flavor. So I tend to like that flavor. But we basically, whatever organic beets we can get at the restaurant, we get. So these are the red beets. And these have already been trimmed of their little stem. Normally, I would leave a little bit of the stem on, basically because it's cute. But there's really no other reason to do it. So you're going to give them just a nice rinse, because they are grown under soil. They're root vegetables. Now, beets are super, super healthy. They're really good for you. They are rich in nutrients. They're loaded with anti-inflammatory, and that red color, of course, gives you an indication of that. So now these are a decent size, but the ones I tried to cook yesterday were gigantic. So if you happen to get gigantic ones, they're just going to take maybe an hour, sometimes even an hour and a half, but you know, you're going to test them until they're fork tender. So I have water boiling here. Well, it was a minute ago. It will again. Okay, it's boiling. And then I'm just going to drop these in carefully. And if you're worried about burning yourself, and you should be, my hands are a bit tempered from 46 years in the restaurant business, you could put them on a slotted spoon and lower them into the hot water so that you definitely don't get burned. And then you're going to cover them and they're going to come to a boil. So we already have the timer going, and then that will keep an eye on it for us. So we have our beets going, and we're going to test them at about 30 minutes. So if somebody could give me a hand in about 30 minutes, what do you think? Yeah. Thank you, Sarah. Okay. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to start on the artichokes. Now, I don't know if you've stuffed artichokes before, but they are my favorite way to eat them. And we sell tons of them in the restaurant. They're very big in the Italian community, certainly in my family. We have them for every holiday. These are globe artichokes. There are different kinds of artichokes. In the winter, like around February, you might get like kind of a frosted one, which has a little bit of a purplish kind of frosty look to it. They're all good. You have a major crop going on, usually August, September, the winter, like December, and then April is a big crop. And if you ever get a chance to go to Castroville, California, you could see fields of artichokes growing, and it's so beautiful to see. They're a thistle plant. So if you want to grow them at home, I actually grew them here one time. They're not great for eating. They were a little bit too tough. I'm not sure if it's because, you know, we just don't have the consistent weather that you have in California to make them grow just beautifully, but they're a gorgeous thistle plant. So even if you don't grow it to eat it, they make a purple, vibrant color, purple flower like thistles. That is gorgeous. And you can cut them and put them in your vase like you would sunflowers. They're fantastic. So artichokes are another super healthy vegetable, loaded with vitamin A, loaded with fiber. They're just so good for you and delicious. So we're going to get them prepared. So what we're going to do is we're going to bring water to a boil on the stove, because we want to prepare our water first. Because once you get your artichokes going, you want to drop them in your water. So you want the water to end up coming up to about a quarter of the way, a third of the way. So you're going to cut off the stem. And then I'm just going to measure to see how much water I need. And I'm going to get in there and, oh, this is good. You could always add more water, and you could certainly always take water out if you need to. So I'm putting this on the stove, but you want to season your water because you're going to make it, you want it to taste good, of course. So what we're going to do is we're going to season the water, but I want to save some of the zest first. The recipe does not call for zest it doesn't call for zest in the actual stuffing, but I love it in there. And I started doing it after the cookbook came out. So I highly recommend that you do that. Use organic, of course, because if you're going to use the zest, you don't want to have any pesticides on it. So you just get your zest before you take the lemon to flavor your water that you're going to use to boil your artichokes. So we're going to get some of that nice zest off. It just adds such a beautiful, bright flavor to your stuffing. I just love it. Okay, so we're going to have that. And then what we're going to do is we're going to cut the lemon and we're going to squeeze it into the water that we're going to use to cook our artichokes. Doesn't matter if you get it doesn't matter if you have the pits in there, because you're not going to be drinking this. And even if you are, you can definitely get rid of these pits. Okay, so we have that. And then what we're going to do is we're going to season the water with salt and pepper. And let's see what we have here. Salt and pepper. You want to season the water. Whenever you're boiling something, you want to flavor the water as well. And then we're going to put some salt and pepper. And then we're going to put a little bit of olive oil, because in a sense, you're making like a broth. And actually, if you remove the pits, you can use that broth to cook pasta later on, and it makes a wonderful artichoke sort of pasta sauce as well. Let's see what we have here. Okay, let's move this. Let's get some garlic. And we're going to put a couple of cloves of garlic sliced inside our water to flavor that as well. Just take your clove and give it a smash. Okay, and then just slice it. And we're going to add that to our water, our broth that we're making. So we have this nicely flavored broth with garlic and water, and we're going to put some olive oil in it too. We're going to put a little bit of olive oil in it. And then I'm going to go ahead and taste it, because if it's not salted enough, then your artichokes aren't going to be salted enough either. So stir it around a little bit and give it a little taste. Pretty good. Okay. All right. So we're going to go there. So now we're going to get ready to stuff our artichokes. But because they start turning brown once you start cutting them, which isn't the end of the world, because once you cook them, they're not going to be bright green anyway. But it just is a little more attractive to do that. So what we're going to do is get our stuffing ready first. So we're going to start out with our breadcrumbs. And I used panko today. You could use panko. You can use panko. Oh my goodness. I never measure when I'm cooking, to be honest with you, but I want to measure tonight so that I don't confuse everything for you guys, except bad habits. But actually, I don't usually measure when I'm cooking. Baking, you have to, because it's a science, but you don't have to for that. So I have my breadcrumbs, and this one is panko, but you could use whole wheat breadcrumbs. You can use fresh breadcrumbs. And then we're going to put some garlic, and you want to chop it finely. Okay, we're going to put that inside. We're going to put a little bit of parsley, Italian flat leaf parsley. And we're going to put a little bit of Parmesan cheese. Although again, sometimes I just love Pecorino Romano cheese. It's a sheep's milk cheese, and I actually prefer it these days. But Pecorino Romano, Parmigiano Reggiano, either one is fantastic. Whichever one you prefer or you have, you can add. And just grate it. So we're going to chop some parsley, and that gives it a nice fresh flavor. Now, some people, and sometimes we do this at the restaurant, will add sliced black olives. My Aunt Marge always did that. Personally, I'm not crazy about them with the black olives, but my husband loved them with the black olives, so I often did them like that. So you could add some sliced black olives now too if you want. Some people like to put capers as well, and capers and artichokes are delicious. So if you want to put some capers that you've squeezed out, you can put a few of those in there as well. And what are we doing? So now we're going to put another little bit of garlic, and then we're going to put one more clove of garlic into that water that we've put on the boil. Okay, and then we have our cheese, our grated cheese. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask. And that goes for you guys here too. Please don't hesitate to ask. And then we're going to put a little bit of Parmesan cheese. Well, this is the Pecorino Romano this time. And then we're just going to, let's get some spoons here. We're just going to mix it up a little bit. And we're going to put a little salt and pepper. You don't want to put too much salt in this because you've got a lot of Pecorino Romano cheese and you won't need it. I'll put just a tiny little bit. Okay, and then we're going to, again, mix it together. And then we're going to put just a little tiny bit of water and a little bit of olive oil to moisten it up a bit. And, okay, where did the olive oil go? By the stove? Yeah, okay. And then we're going to put some olive oil, just like a tablespoon is fine. You don't need a lot of it. And then you just toss it. Okay, and then I'm going to give it a little bit of a taste. What do you go wrong? Pecorino Romano cheese, panko breadcrumbs, pretty nice. So now we're gonna get, I have one more clove of garlic. I'm gonna throw it into the water for cooking the artichokes, which will be fine. Okay. Just gonna slice it and put it into the broth. Okay, now that I've started, I'm gonna start cutting the artichokes. I'm gonna turn the water on to boil because we're gonna be boiling it. Let's take a peek at these guys. The beets are boiling nicely. You want to, again, keep an eye every once in a while to make sure that you don't let them boil down and burn. It's covered, so that shouldn't happen, but I like to put plenty of water in there. And also, when you're making your beets, after you take your beets out, if you want to dye a t-shirt, it really comes beautiful, I have to say. Okay, so now with your stem, the stem is absolutely delicious. So you want to take it and just peel off the outside. And some people, my aunt always liked to chop it up really fine and put it inside the stuffing. I like to just eat it when you've cooked them, after you've cooked them. So I just plop it inside the water. Okay, and I'm going to cut off the other one. And then I'm going to trim off the stem. And now when you go to get your artichokes, make sure they're fairly tight. You don't want them so loosey-goosey that they just look old. You want them fairly tight, but if you get the ones, some of the round ones are so tight that they're really difficult to stuff. So you want sort of a balance in between. Just that's more for ease. I mean, you really can stuff them, but it's just harder. So what you're going to do is you're going to take the artichoke and cut off the very top, just the top a little bit. Okay. And then what I do is smash it down, and that helps open it up. You know, give it a good smash, and then it helps you open using your thumbs and your fingers. You're going to open it up to stuff it. And take your hand and carefully, you don't want to get pricked with the little thorns. You want to lift out that middle, pull out that middle section of those purpley leaves, and you're creating a cavity there. Now, some people take a spoon, like a grapefruit spoon, and they clean out the choke. They really do that because there's that little, once you boil them, you're going to have an easy way to get them off. You're going to have an easy way to remove the choke. It just comes off in a simple layer. So there's really no need to go so crazy with it. And let's get our scissors. Okay, so you want to take your scissors and just cut a little bit of the thorny tips off of the edges. I don't like them cut down too far because I like to use these for the handle to eat. So it's easier to handle that way. And you just give them a little trim. So you just cut off the thorny tops because you don't want anyone pricking their finger while they're eating it. Okay, so this is how we're just getting it cut like that. Looking for just
We have
the
a
thorny top.
question.
And you could see them because they're pointy and they're a little bit sharp.
Hey, Claire?
Yeah.
Can I ask a question? Actually,
Of course.
If you are removing the heart right now.
I am not. I'm not removing the heart. And the reason I don't is, first of all, it's too much work. And for me on the holidays, I'm doing 24.
Yeah.
And I rarely ever remove the heart because these little purpley leaves, if you take every single one of them out and clean it out so much, these are actually tender and delicious. You don't eat the top that has somewhat of a thorny top, even though it's really not thorny by the time you boil it, but the bottom is very silky and delicious. You lose that if you do that.
Okay.
And then the heart itself, the furry part,
Yep.
the choke itself that lays over the heart, which is the best part, I think. I could always tell when new people come in the restaurant and try it, who've never had artichoke, you see that going to the bottom and I'm like, hi, you're going to eat the heart, right? And they're saying, oh, I didn't know about that. So yeah, we should actually print something up and do instructions, but because some people don't know, but the choke comes right off the heart once it's cooked. So once you get down to it, you literally just take your fork or a butter knife and slide it underneath, lift it off, and then you have the beautiful heart there. So it's easy to, yeah, you're welcome, of course. Okay, so we're going to open that up like that. And then we're going to stuff this part. Just going to put about half the stuffing in it. And you're going to fill up the cavity like so. And then you're also going to take it and then you're going to put it in between the leaves because you don't want to lose any of that delicious flavor. So you're putting a little bit through the leaves, inside the leaves, tucking it in a little bit. And you're using about half of the stuffing. Okay, so it basically will look like this. And it looks like that. And then we're going to put it inside our salted olive oil lemon water and set that in straight up. I wanted to use a smaller pan, but unfortunately the smaller pan doesn't really hold the two, but it also does not hold the other one. This one could use maybe 3 or 4, but we'll have to just make sure they don't tip over and we'll check that. So again, we're going to go over and get this prepared the same way. You're going to cut off the very top, give it a nice whack, open it up, take out some of the inside, basically to make space for you to put your stuffing. But again, these tender leaves, these little light colored leaves, and even the lavender ones, they're delicious and they get very tender once you cook them. And there is no thorny part after you've cooked them. So you're opening it up, and then we're going to take our scissors and we're going to trim this one as well. Now this recipe calls for 2 because we're really trying to encourage people to just make them with dinner one night or just for cocktails. You give everyone their own bowl and you could sit around and watch a movie while eating your artichokes. It beats popcorn for sure. Okay, so we're just going to trim it a little bit. Nothing too crazy, because again, if you cut it down too far, and I have to tell you, there's something wonderful about it looking like somebody made it not for manufacturing. When it's such a perfect cover of a foodie magazine, where it's just so symmetrical and so perfect, I don't know, I just like it better when it looks like somebody actually made it. And it looks almost like a piece of art, I think. So we're going to stuff this one as well with our beautiful filling. And then we're going to just take the rest and put it in between the leaves. Because then as it cooks, as you're getting all the flavor, as you pull out the leaves, you'll have a little bit of stuffing cooked into the leaves, which is absolutely delicious when you go to eat it. It's a messy business eating these, but it's worth it. Okay, so here we have another beautiful artichoke. And we're going to put that right inside the water. And we cut the bottom flat, so we're not having a hard time if you want to take a picture and see what that looks like inside. And then we're going to cover it because they have to steam. And, I think we're going to switch pots. Okay, that's going there. That's going there. Okay, so we're going to do that, and we're going to keep an eye on it because they're going to take about 30 minutes. Okay, shall we take a little break?
Sure. Let's do that, Claire.